Hi everyone, George Marrero here. I want to share a thought with you guys again. There's this guy in social media named Gary Vee, and he talks about how young people could waste time and still be young enough to do what they have to do. I don't want to say there's some truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. And I just want to share my life experience, a short piece of my life experience with you guys, just to confirm what he says. And I don't think that Gary Vee is saying, go waste your time and then come back. You know, he's letting young people know that if you do feel you're wasting your time, or if it happens for whatever reason, because you haven't figured yourself out or what you want to do at that age, which is very understandable. You can speak to adults and they don't know what they want to do. I remember years ago, a lady asked me once, she said, what is it you want to do? And I was already working. I think I already had my master's. And it was shocking and a good question, because I focus on what it is I want to do. But she caught me off guard, because it was like, what is it I want to do? Then I had to tell myself what it is I want to do. Okay, but going to the point I'm making with this person who is very known on social media, so I don't gotta give no introduction about him. But I can agree with what he says about probably waste 10 years of your life and still figure yourself out, right? I believe in using your time wisely. So I'm not telling anybody to go waste your time. But myself, in my life, because I grew up the way I grew up, and I'm the author of Willing to Change, is my biography, it's a true story, my life, how I grew up in the Bronx, got in trouble, went to prison, and there alone, there is a waste of time. But even in prison, I was given 25 years at the age of 20 as a max, with a minimum of 8 1/3. I did 8 years and 5 months out of that, and was released. That whole story is in the book. Willing to Change is a really good story of transformation. It's an inspirational book. But what I want to say is that even in prison, which I felt in my life, I felt, man, I wasted 8.5 years of my life, the best years. I went in when I was 20. I came out when I was 28, and it is a waste of time. I have friends where I see pictures where they were having fun, and I was incarcerated. But in prison, I learned, I matured, I obtained my high school equivalency diploma. So even though I was incarcerated, I lived, I learned, I matured, I obtained my high school diploma. And when I was released, I went to college and I got my degree in education. And I taught in a high school, then I got my master's, and I taught in various universities. So, my purpose of sharing this thought here, or this video, is with a lot of young people that could be out there thinking that they have wasted their time. And people, sometimes when people feel I wasted my time, they feel like it's like a load on their back that makes them think negative of themselves, and then they continue with that attitude. I wasted my time, I'm a nobody, I don't have this, I don't have that, and that could just gain more emotional weight on them, where they do less, or they feel they're stuck in one job. And I just want to say, no, like I said, I agree with what Gary Vee says. You can mess up for 10 years, which I don't recommend, but in a sense, it was my experience. 8.5 years in prison, and even the time I was in the streets, wasting my time, hanging out, doing what I wanted to do. That's wasting time. I have a lot of good stories. It's funny because sometimes I share with my wife and I say, I did this, I did that, we did this, whatever. And my wife is a bookworm. We could call her a nerd, and she was always getting good grades, which is wonderful. I congratulate her for that. But it's funny because even though I wasn't doing the right thing, I don't recommend nobody do what I did. But I have fun, and I'm just connecting that with what this young man on social media says when he says, you could there could be time you wasted, but it's not over. Reinvent yourself, and that's what I want to share. And like I said, I came home. I did. I went to college, got my degrees, went and taught in a high school, more than one high school, but I taught in 2 different private schools. I taught in universities. I have even published my book. All this after doing time and after coming home and having to figure out what it is I want to do. I mean, I went to study almost immediately after I came home. A year later exactly, I was already in college because I didn't get support as soon as I got out. But anyway, the point is that, there's your life ain't over because you have made mistakes. Your life ain't over because you dropped out of high school. Go back, get your high school diploma. You could do it so easily today. Your life ain't over because you probably left college, university. And I love the academic environment. I've been in the academic environment as a student and as a professor, and I still love it. This is something I really like. So but my point here is to let you know that you're not man, your life ain't over, man. Reinvent yourself. One thing I don't like is when I see a lot of young people and I'm talking about wasting time. So when I see young people wasting the time and they don't seem as if they have a goal, and that's to me terrible. But you young people that know what you want or have an idea and have a plan, and you failed in one area, you feel you failed or you did fail. I mean, failing is part of life. We learn from it, we grow from it, and you feel like you failed, that this is it. No. You could reinvent yourself. I mean, you just figured out when you feel you failed or you did fail in whatever area, you just figured out that ain't what you want to do. And sometimes you can probably go back and say, wait a minute, this is what I want to do, but I gotta stay away from the mistakes I made. But basically, I don't want to take a lot of your time. This is the message I wanted to give you. We're not telling you go out there and waste time and you can still bounce back. No, if you can figure what it is you want to do at a young age, do it. But if you tried doing something, whatever it is, school, work, or business, and you fail, it doesn't mean it's over. Get back up, and go forward and plan. I like to write things down. I write stuff down, even if it's in a short list. I write down things down and I scratch out things I succeeded. Sometimes I have a longer list with short-term plans, long-term plans, and I stick them up somewhere in the wall, or my closet door, whatever. And I go back years later and I'm like, okay, I did this. Wait a minute, let me scratch this off. Sometimes I redo the list, taking off that which I already accomplished. And in my book, I talk about that. I did that when I was in prison. I put the high school diploma in the last one in the list because I was scared. I thought I couldn't do that, high school diploma. But I did it. I had programs I had to follow, like getting a trade, which I did. Going into violent programs because my case was a violent case. I grew up in violence. Again, Willing to Change by George Marrero, Marrero, is the title of my book. I have videos in TikTok, in YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, where my book cover is there. It's a good book. I've been told that by people that read it. And it is a good book. I have read it myself over, and even when I was working with the writing and the editing, and I used to tell my wife, there's a good book, because sometimes I feel, because it's a story of a negative lifestyle I live, sometimes I question myself, but it's something I accomplished, and it's something. It's a story I know that could be a blessing for your life. But again, my point here is, get back up. It doesn't matter how much time you might have wasted in whatever you feel you wasted time in. You learned from that experience. I was speaking to a friend of mine that told me he started a master's and he changed from that major to another major in a master's level, and even did it again for a third time. And we were talking about that, and I told him, you got to realize something, it's not something I recommend. You got to focus on what it is you want to do, but realize something, that you learned something in each of those classes you took. And now, where you are now, I told him, focus, because sometimes people want to do so much. And there's a saying in Spanish, in Puerto Rico, I learned when I lived out there, that says, el que mucho abarca, poco aprieta, which means whoever grabs a lot, the more you grab, the less you can squeeze. And sometimes we got to focus on something for us to be able to be successful on that one thing. But remember, whatever it is you did, whatever it is you have planned to do, and you feel you failed, or maybe again you failed. I mean, we all been through that, but you learn from it. So move on, get back up, don't give up. Have a great, blessed day.